Hi guys, so this is a 90%, 95% confidence interval. So a few things you need to know first. Sample size, that's just the number of participants in a given survey, so it's just how many people are pretty much interviewed or asked a question. Margin for error, so you should have seen this before. If you're not sure what it means, then just have a look back. It basically means how far in or out, how it means basically how much the final figure given could be wrong by or could be out by. The third one here, uh, and its symbol is P with a little thing over it like that. That means it's the fraction of the sample which were successes. So it's basically it's generally the fraction of the sample which who said yes or which just kind of just basically successful outcomes. And then the last part is the actual confidence interval itself. This is the basically formula for it. It's the sample proportion plus or minus the margin of error. So there's two parts to it. There's the sample proportion and then there's the margin of error that you need to work out to be able to give a confidence interval. So let's have a look at the example here. So a random sample of 400 people are given a flu vaccine and 136 of them experienced some discomfort. So there's basically 136 is the number of kind of successes here then, even though it's not really a success. But anyway, um, okay, let's just go down through them. So the first part is to write down the sample size. So the sample size is 400. There's 400 people who were given the flu vaccine. So that's simple enough. Second part is to write down the margin of error. So the formula for margin of error is E equals 1 over the square root of n, where n is just the sample size. So in this case, it'll be 1 over the square root of 400. And then you'll need a calculator for that. So if you put that into a calculator, you'll get 0.05. So that's the margin for error here. So we've basically half of the confidence interval worked out already. The next part is the sample proportion. So sample proportion is denoted by that symbol with so P with a little thing above it like that. So in this case, there was 136 of them experienced discomfort, and that's what we're interested in here. We're interested in what proportion of them experienced discomfort. So it's 136 out of 400. And if you just put that into a calculator just to represent it as a decimal, you'll get 0.34. So 0.34 of them experienced discomfort. The last thing they ask us then is the confidence interval. So confidence interval is given then, once we've worked out those things, it's given by the sample proportion plus or minus the margin of error. So 1 over root n. So therefore that'll be 0.34 plus or minus 0.05. So if we're to take the two scenarios then, plus or minus 0.34 minus 0.05, if you're to put that in a calculator, it'll give you 0.29. So that's 0.34 minus 0.05. And if you're to take 0.34 plus 0.05, we should get 0.39. So what we're saying is that it lies, the margin of error is in between these two figures. So you can also write it like that. So at 95% confidence interval, we're saying that between 29, so for the whole population, so this allows us to give for the whole population then. between 29%, because 0.29 is 29%, and 39% would feel discomfort. So we're basically 95% sure that between 29% and 39% of people for the whole population, then based on that 400 people in the sample, would feel discomfort. So that's our confidence interval. So here's another one then, if you just want to pause the video and have a go at it. So 200 students are the sample size, and then 48 said that they spend at least 1 hour each day watching television. So if you want to have a go at each of those 4 questions, just pause the video and then play it on, and I'll go through the answers. Right, so the first part again, sample size. Sample size is just the number of people in the sample, so it's just 200 because there's 200 students here. Second part, what is the margin for error? So again, we use the formula, so 1 over square root of n. So in this case, it's 1 over the square root of 200. So if you put that into a calculator, you should get 0.07, and I'm actually rounding that off, so it's approximately 0.07. And then third part, what is the sample proportion? So sample proportion now, that's this thing that's denoted like this. That's number of successful outcomes for what we're trying to find out. So in this case, it's 48 out of 200. So 48 out of 200 spend at least 1 hour watching television each day. So if you just do 48 divided by 200 on a calculator, it should give you 0.24. And then we can go to our confidence interval. So it's the sample proportion plus or minus the margin for error. So here then it's going to be 0.24 plus or minus 0.07. So if we're to take 0.24 minus 0.07, we get 0.17. And then if we take 0.24 plus 0.07, we're going to get 0.31. So that's so it's in between these two values then that we're 95% sure that our hypothesis works. So at 95% confidence interval for the whole population, between 17% and 31%, so it's of students they watch 1 hour of TV per day.